So, good morning everyone in the room. Good morning Saudi, I believe. Good morning Beirut. Good morning Beirut. Sounds like Robin Williams. So, I see we've got Philippe unmuting. Bonjour Philippe.
Hello everyone. Hello.
Morning. Good morning.
Brilliant to have you with us. So we're getting it going. You're wondering why I'm leaving out Mashrek and Maghreb, and that's because in a spirit of digital, we're talking to Mashrek and Maghreb through the lens over there. So Maghreb is still asleep, so good morning Maghreb. We won't wake you up yet, but good morning properly later, and Mashrek will be easing in. So that's the whole of our main team out there and participating, which is absolutely fantastic, getting that sense of doing it together. And one of the things that I'm loving about how we're doing digital with around the center of making this happen is that we're connecting and connecting and connecting. That we're finding ways to work together, to get inspiration, to learn from each other, to share the workload, which given how hard we're all working is a pretty significant element. We're able to connect and get those benefits. Because one of the key things about the digital world is that it's a connected world. And you heard Tatiana talking about connecting by Yammer, connecting about through the other routes. But this is so fundamental, and I think it's an element that we drop. What we really do with digital for ourselves is to harness the power of all of us, to be able to lean on each other, to be able to support each other, and achieve far more than we could individually or just in our units. So I really urge you to embrace that aspect of it. The other aspect that I encourage you to really think about today, where I go slightly off script maybe, let's see. You've got a session, or you were describing a session in the afternoon about preparing ourselves for digital. And one of the things that troubles me is when we talk about digital, how much we say is mandatory. You must do this, and you must do this, and you must do this, and you must do this. Which of course is great in terms of getting the skills you need. But if you look at what we're really trying to do here, digital is a way of us as a business and us as individuals getting ready for a future which actually isn't a future because it's now. So we're talking about how do we engage with consumers over digital. How many people in this room shop online? If any hands don't go up, we're going to be really It was lovely. I came in this morning, there are some of us who are morning people, and the first person I saw was Jibba. What better start to the day can you have than this kind of explosive smile coming down the corridor? Actually, just love to see you. So we are all digital consumers already. This is the reality. We were talking to, just at the point where it became Amazon, we were talking to the guy who had founded Souq, as it was at the time. And he was talking about customer service expectations on becoming a part of Amazon. And normally Amazon, because all around the world they have standards of service, Prime will get you this, everything else will get you this service, you have to pay if you want to get it earlier. And so consumers order, and then, especially the British, wait exactly 3 days after they've ordered, and then they may think about complaining. Apparently most of the complaints here on Amazon happen immediately after the order has been placed, asking why it hasn't arrived yet. So consumers all over the world have completely different expectations. It blows my mind that on Amazon here, or on Noon, you order and often it appears before the end of the day. It simply doesn't happen elsewhere. And so those digital expectations are shaping us. Can you conceive of us doing that for consumers? In the shower, you realise the conditioner's run out. Maybe they're not that particularly wrong. But that's the reality. That's why we need to connect this whole idea of what's the future going to be like. It is digital. That's not the future. Let's get our heads around that. Digital is not the future. Digital is now. Digital is connected. So the way we're really going to make it work is exactly what we're doing now with Philippe and Co, with Saudi, with all of us here, by being connected, sharing the load, because only by sharing the load are we going to be able to make the change. That's the only way we can free the time up to realise what we need to do in continuing with our current work is by doing it together. The last thing in my mind is that there aren't really any rules. That's the other aspect of digital. That we're quite a rule-focused organisation, we're a rule-focused function. Of course there are some rules. But I think the challenge, if I look at my personal digital journey, which at the moment, as I get older, largely involves seeing at what focal length I can actually work my phone, which is getting further and further away, which is slightly embarrassing. I'm turning into my mother. This happens to everyone in due course. It's completely irrelevant for today. But even my 87-year-old mother will put her glasses on, go and find her phone, hold it at exactly the right length to be able to see it, and steadily make extremely slow thumb movements to get through. Digital learning never stops. It's actually really cool watching my 87-year-old mother get to grips with this. She's now reading the newspaper online, and it's huge. It's much more enjoyable. So this is just the reality of it. The question is, let's actually think about my 87-year-old mother, things you didn't expect to be doing today in this session. Just think about that. Why would she suddenly decide to read The Guardian, the UK newspaper, online, to make the effort of seeing where she clicks and where everything is, rather than getting it delivered through the front door every day and going and sitting down and reading it? It's because of what's in it for her. And for me, that's the big theme about how we as individuals embrace digital. I'm a dinosaur, that's very clear. My daughters repeatedly remind me of it. But I completely fail to understand, I know most of you have heard this before, Instagram. I don't care what you had for breakfast, I don't like cats. So I have no role whatsoever in using Instagram. I simply don't understand it. I've been shown how to use it multiple times, it makes no sense to me. Same with Facebook. More bloody breakfast, more cats. Why on earth would anyone want to be doing this? And so, social media to me is an absolute mystery. You can talk to people, and then you can also choose not to talk to people, which is the other bit I like. So this is critical. Unless I get to grips with social media, I can't see myself as a digital citizen. I want to be a digital citizen. So it's a question then finding the route to it. So my personal journey actually has been, most of you know I'm a musician, my personal journey has been through understanding how do I get my music online and how can I then use Facebook. I'll leave the bassist to use Instagram because he's young. How can I use what really moves me to introduce me to things which I can then really start to grasp for other reasons? And that's kind of a fairly extreme example, but for me, the core of today is partly about going through all the agenda that Ashish put up, partly about listening to what Tatiana has to say. But it's even more about taking the opportunity of having a whole day for yourself to look for what is it which is really going to light that spark in you. What angle can you find which is going to really transform your understanding of digital? Of course what it can do for the company, but mostly what it can do for you. Because none of us are going to be able to escape it. Well, we can escape it. You see this in a lot of cultures now. You kind of have a choice. Maybe you either embrace digital or you get told that you've nearly finished. The whole thing needs to carry on. So I think that's an example of the speed of digital communication. One digital watch, a fierce glance, and I know I have to finish. So what is key is that you identify what can I get out of this. We've got all of this mandatory learning. I'm ploughing through it, you're ploughing through it. Frankly, the most significant thing I've learned from it is how to run a YouTube video at double speed. And that's a perfectly legitimate part of it, because in my mind, there are bits of how to work PowerPoint which are never going to happen to me in my lifetime. So double speed, reading the transcript I highly recommend. There's a whole thing about how greyhounds will give us the capability. The transcript is completely abstract. There was something that, as I went through, something about how Barbie was going to enable us to be able to release our digital spark within. So I highly recommend reading the transcript. But all of this gets benefit. Don't hesitate to cheat a little bit. Because there's no point in driving yourself to learn something which is irrelevant. Instead, get through that, make sure you can get the certification and those things on it, but then focus on what excites you. Find the spark within you in this, focus hard. It's far more important to look at where you're going to be strong and then really blast through that, really make the most of it, than to be average at everything. So that's my slightly anarchic take on this. Use today as a launch pad. Use today to see what's out there, but then take this idea of a launch pad. You know, I love the idea of digital astronauts. Visualize the rocket. How can you use today's spotlight session to find the thing in you which is really going to make you blast off? It's going to take you to a different place. It's going to make you stand out, really show how you add value. And that because you're excited by it, it's going to mean you love doing it, so you do it more, you do it better, and people notice, and you have greater and greater impact. So for me, that's the key message. It's partly about preparing ourselves as a function to be brilliant for digital in the future. It's even more about really taking the great luxury of a day to spot how can this work for you personally and specifically, and then really launch all your energy into that to get the very most out of it and to make sure that you found where you're going to shine and you focus in and drive your learning around that. Of course, with the context of the rest of the learning as well. I think it's a fantastic program. I really appreciate all the effort that the team have put it together, have gone into. It's fantastic. You can genuinely see the excitement around it. I'm looking forward to coming back, catching up with you later on, see how it's gone, and have an absolutely fantastic day.